Number 6, small talk drains you. Most people assume that discomfort in social situations means something is wrong with them socially, but there is a particular kind of awkwardness that highly intelligent people experience. It comes from not knowing what to do with conversations that feel like they're going nowhere, conversations about the weather, weekend plans, or complaints about traffic. For a brain wired toward pattern recognition and complexity, those types of conversations end before it feels like it has started. No new information, no real connection. It feels shallow and empty. And your brain registers it as understimulation. You're not being rude or douchebag. It is a calibration mismatch between what your brain craves and what the conversation is actually delivering. In a research published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology, they found that people consistently underestimate how much they will enjoy deeper conversations and overestimate how awkward they will be. Deep conversation is positively linked to happiness. Small talk is neutral at best. The same person who checks out mid conversation about weekend plans will come completely alive talking about why people do what they do, how systems break down, or what something actually means beneath the surface. It is not that they dislike people, they are often intensely interested in people. They just have a brain that prefers stimulating conversations that has depth. Number 5, you ask deliberate questions. There is a reliable way to tell the difference between someone who is genuinely thinking and someone who is just confused. The confused person asks broad, vague questions. They want someone to explain the whole thing. But the intellectual person will map the problem, identify the gap, and narrow the question down to the exact point of friction. Not how does this work, but what determines the output at this specific step. That deliberate meticulousness is what scientists call semantic mapping. And it's the brain's ability to evaluate a problem's parameters and identify exactly where the gap is before asking for outside input. Smart people rarely accept things at face value. They ask why it works the way it does, even about simple things. Not to argue or be annoyingly difficult, but because their brain is genuinely unsatisfied with the surface answer and keeps pulling on the thread until it hits something structural. That habit, compounded over time, is one of the primary engines of critical thinking. It is also why they tend to get more useful answers from the same conversation than anyone else in the room. A better question extracts more signal from the same source. Most people never think to sharpen the question, they just ask it louder. Number 4, you change your mind without drama. Most people treat their opinions like their identity. Challenge the opinion and you have challenged the person. The belief becomes something to be defended rather than examined. And what should be an intellectual update becomes an emotional conflict. You've probably watched this happen in real time. Someone is presented with a contradicting fact, and the first response is almost never curiosity. It is defensiveness. Their brain, detecting a threat to its established narrative, activates the same stress response it uses for physical danger. The belief and the self have fused into one thing, and the brain will defend it accordingly. Highly intelligent people do not do this, not because they have no ego, but because their relationship with their own ideas is different. An idea is a dynamic working model, the best available explanation given current data. New data does not threaten the self, it updates the model. Neuroscientists call this prefrontal flexibility, the ability to downregulate the emotional threat response from the amygdala and prioritize the rational data stream instead. Think of it like a GPS. A less flexible brain drives straight into the roadblock because the original route was the right route. A flexible brain recalculates to find the next best alternative. Changing your mind when the evidence changes is not weakness, it is being open minded. It's the ability to synthesize and absorb new data and evidence to change your stance and beliefs, and it is the most precise definition of intellectual integrity. Number three, you feel like a fraud. Psychologists David Dunning and Justin Kruger discovered that people who performed the worst on tests of logic and reasoning consistently rated themselves as above average. They weren't lying. They genuinely believed it, and it wasn't arrogance. It was that they lacked the very skill required to recognize their own inadequacy. You need competence to accurately measure competence. To put it plainly, ignorance breeds confidence, and real knowledge breeds doubt. Now flip it. Highly intelligent people suffer from the opposite problem. The more deeply they understand a field, the more clearly they see its complexity and the limits of their own knowledge. They assume what comes easily to them must come just as easily to everyone else. So they discount their own ability. That persistent self-doubt is called imposter syndrome, and it is driven by advanced metacognition, the capacity to accurately assess what you do not yet know. The amateur stands on a small hill and believes they have conquered Everest. The expert stands at the base of Everest and feels small. So if you constantly feel like you are a fraud despite evidence of competence, that humility and awareness of knowing how little you know is a clear sign of intelligence. Number two, you understand sarcasm instantly. When someone says something sarcastic, your brain performs three cognitive operations simultaneously. The left hemisphere decodes the literal meaning of the words. The right hemisphere and frontal lobes detect the mismatch between the words, the speaker's tone, and what the context actually signals. And the right ventromedial prefrontal cortex integrates that contradiction with everything you know about the person, the moment, the relationship, and then interprets it into the real meaning. What may seem like a casual conversation to you is one of the many superpowers of the brain that is running a linguistic acrobatic routine in the background automatically. Researchers studying pragmatic language processing have documented that sarcasm requires measurably more neural coordination than straightforward communication. It demands theory of mind, which is the ability to model what another person believes and what they assume you know, layered on top of standard language decoding. People who struggle to detect sarcasm are not slow. They are processing language through a narrower cognitive channel. The people who not only catch it instantly but generate it naturally are running a significantly more sophisticated social operating system. So if you have ever been told your sense of humor is too dry or too quick for the room, your brain is just operating at a higher processing level. Number one, you learn from every mistake. When you make a mistake, your brain generates two distinct electrical signals in rapid succession. The first is called error-related negativity, and it fires subconsciously within 100 milliseconds. It is an automatic emergency brake. The second signal fires between 100 and 200 milliseconds later and represents your conscious attention to what just went wrong. Scientists call that second signal error positivity, and its size predicts more about how fast you grow than almost anything else. A study published in Psychological Science measured error positivity across participants with different mindsets. People who genuinely believed their abilities could be developed through effort produced a significantly larger error positivity signal. Their brains paid more conscious attention to the mistake, extracted more information from it, and adapted their approach faster afterward. Their accuracy after errors improved more than those who produced a smaller signal. The brain was not just registering failure, it was treating it as data and updating the strategy. If you instinctively review what went wrong, not to punish yourself, but to extract something useful, that is not just introspection, It is a measurable neurological behavior that compounds over a lifetime. The people who grow the fastest are not the ones who make the fewest mistakes. They are the ones who are fueled by them, extracting lessons and learning from them to continuously iterate and improve. Thanks for watching.
Like and subscribe to see more.